Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Here we are again with another video. So as you guys seen in the description, today we'll be doing a DJM lowering kit on my Tacoma. This kit actually applies to a 95 through a 2004 Toyota Tacoma. So anything between there, I think this kit should work. So I went ahead and got me the struts and the full kit. So it'll be a 4-drop in the back and 3 in the front. So let's get this started. So here I have it, basically showing you guys everything that came in the kit. And I want to see if I can figure this out, because there's a lot of people saying that these instructions are hard to find, hard to make sense of. So I'm gonna see if I can make it happen, and that way we could avoid these freaking instructions, because I hate reading. I'm sure you do too. I'm pretty much illiterate, so reading is no fun for me. But I could definitely take this thing apart and figure this thing out. So I'm gonna try to record this, like I said, because I haven't seen any videos that show you how to do this. So right now I'm gonna start by jacking the truck up and using some PB penetrating oil. That way, you know, we could help breaking out those old bolts, especially in this, you know, 97 Tacoma that has probably never had a shock or anything replaced. Every time I turn on this thing, it sounds like it's metal on metal. So that, you know, I'm definitely gonna get in there and change ball joints. So I did go to AutoZone and get me some brand new ball joints too. Like I said, I don't want this thing sounding like it's metal to metal every time I turn. So I want to go in there and replace as much as I can while I'm in there. That way I don't have to do it again. But I'm sure I'm gonna have to go in there and change some different bushings down the road. Worst case scenario, we'll have to run to AutoZone and get it done now. So I was getting ready to get the truck lifted, so you guys can see the jacks pretty much underneath there, so I can put the jack stands on there. And I decided to look at the books again, and sure enough, important. So they want you to record everything before and after, to, I guess, so you could tell, you know, what you did. So I guess I got to go around and measure in the center cap and kind of measure my gap to see what a difference I did, because I did order the 3 to 4 drop, so 3 in the front, 4 in the back. And that's honestly the reason why I went with this company, because it was the only company that really offered 3 and 4, and I wanted to do, you know, the most drop I can without having to do any modifications to the frame or anything, like a little C-notch in the back. But let me measure this out. Alright guys, so here you have my measurements. So 30 inches in the back and 28 in the front. And I guess the whole purpose of this, if you guys can read those words, it says measure the height before you start, then record the measurements after you're finished. When trying to diagnose a problem, before and after measurements can often tell you what you need to know. So I guess by having these measurements, you kind of know if there's a problem in one side of the wheel, in one side of the truck or something. So we'll see. I mean, I'm expecting this to be pretty smooth, and I don't have one side higher than the other. So we'll see. Alright guys, so I've been pretty much letting this thing sit for like 3-4 hours or something like that. So I've been up and down trying to make sure I have everything set to do this. So I had to run and get a 9/16 drill bit because it requires to have one of those. So I have it here on my drill press. So it's definitely a plus that I have that thing, because that drill press is handy as heck. I mean, and I actually got that thing for free, and I was gonna sell it because I had never used it until I looked up the price, and I kept it. And I'm glad I didn't sell that thing, because now I actually use it. I guess I needed another value of it. I also been looking into the instructions, because they are a little off. Like, it doesn't tell you exactly what this kit's supposed to do. And basically the main concept is, you're on the front, all you're gonna do is flip the ball joints from basically being mounted under to on top. So that's basically all I gotta do. So since I got new ball joints, as you guys can see here, I'm just gonna mount this on top, and basically that's it. And there is no label on none of these arms that says left or right, and I put them on top of each other, and they're pretty identical, so I figured that should be universal for each side. And then on the ball joints, you definitely got to get, you know, if you get the lower ones, make sure you get left and right. I guess the top ones are pretty much the same. I'm gonna start tackling this out, and then let's make it happen. Let's lower her down. Alright guys, so I took the courtesy to do this side already. That way I could be familiar with the kit. That way I could provide a pretty good video. And honestly, this wasn't too hard at all. The hardest part is, you know, running into the OEM parts that are rusted on there, and you gotta cut stuff sometimes. Other than that, it's pretty straightforward kit. So all you're doing is flipping it from down here to up here, and then bolting it down. And then I did get a new shock, so there's a little strut, a brand new strut in there too. And like I said, other than the parts being rusted up, it's a pretty straightforward job. So let me show you guys how it's done on the other side. So for sure you want to remove your sway bar. So I started with the sway bar, and that's pretty easy. All you got to do is remove the bottom nut, and it should come right out. The kit comes with brand new bushings and everything, so don't worry if you break the old ones, because the kit comes with it. What I learned on the other side is that you want to start with this traction control bar. As you guys can see, I already removed the bolt and nut. So here I have it. So you want to start removing that one. So you got that bolt there, and then you got two nuts here, and you want to remove these because you're gonna have to push this out. And then on the other side, my mistake was I took all this apart, and the spring just pushed everything down, stretched it out. So as you guys can see, it's still kind of mounted in there. So that angle kind of got it stuck in here, so it was hard to push that traction bar. So what I'm gonna do on this side is try to remove that first before I disconnect any ball joints. Alright, so if you guys can see, this is basically the traction bar. Like I said, I removed the two bottom nuts. So now I just gotta make sure I could get this thing out before I release the tension and see if that works. So I guess try to keep your hub straight, because if you guys can see that little bracket back there where your brake line sits, this little bracket here is hitting on the caliper. I'm gonna turn the wheel straight and see if that works. Alright guys, so sure enough, that did it right there. Keep your wheel straight. That way the bracket doesn't hit the caliper, and then use a little screw and beat it out the rest of the way. That way, because there is a little bit of tension here with the spring and everything. So when I hit it with the screw underneath, it popped everything out, and it worked out pretty good. So now I'm just gonna see if I can remove this thing, and on to the next step. Alright guys, so now that we remove this traction bar, what I'm gonna do is push out these bolts, because it recommends you to push these two out. And then we gotta drill these holes bigger with a 9/16 drill bit. That way the other bolts could slide straight through this, and these are gonna be eliminated. What I'd like to do is just get a bigger socket than that little platform of the screw, and then just beat on it, and it should come out pretty good. Just like that. Just like that, the first one's out. So if you guys can see, this is the hardware that comes with the kit, and the screw doesn't go through, so you got to get yourself a 9/16 drill bit to drill the hole bigger. So you don't need a drill press, but I got it, so I'm gonna make use of it. That way it makes the job a little bit easier, and the drill bit goes down straighter too. So I have a little bit of motor oil here. I just lube up the whole place. That way it drills easier, and it doesn't mess up the drill bit. So here I go. Just like that, the first one's in. So now I'm just gonna set this aside because I don't need it for a while. Alright, so now I'm gonna remove the bottom ball joint. So I'm gonna separate this from here, that way it can still hang on the arm and it's not just hanging on the brake line. And then after that I'll remove the top one and I'll hang the whole hub assembly on the side. And that's why I got this bucket, so I can sit the whole hubs set up on this bucket and it doesn't really rely on just the wire to hold it up. So let's start by removing these cotter pins, and this one's all gunked up, dirty, but we'll make it happen. I think out of this whole job, I think these cotter pins are the most pain in the ass. Now with my ball joint spreader, I'm gonna try to remove the ball joint from the lower control arm. So I do recommend getting brand new ball joints, especially if you're gonna spread them out like that, because if they're old, 90% of the times these cushion seals, whatever you call them, tear up and then you're gonna get dirt in them and they're gonna fail on you. Alright guys, so this tie rod on this side has been a pain in the ass, so instead of fighting with it, since it's connected to the lower ball joint, what I did is ran to O'Reilly's, just got me a brand new tie rod in, that way I could just, you know, take this one apart and just not have to mess with it, because I could just unscrew the bottom ball joint and then break it loose from here and just remove the whole thing as one piece, and then I'll just put a brand new one. I should have bought another one for the other side, but since I didn't have trouble with the other one, I think it should be fine for now. Like I said, this is little hiccups that you run into since it's all old, and this is probably still the OEM one. I wouldn't doubt it if it ain't. Let me start by removing that bottom ball joint, and then I'll loosen this one up and we should go from there. So there it is. Like I said, I got a brand new ball joint and now I got the brand new tie rod. So I'm just gonna break this loose, put it back in place, and then twist this one off. That way I could just reinstall the new one. Like I said guys, I took it all in one piece. That way I didn't have to mess with this thing. And now I have a brand new tie rod in right here. Alright, so now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna run a wire through these holes up here. That way I can hang this whole assembly. And like I said, I'm gonna use the bucket as well, so I can just put it aside. So I'm gonna remove the upper ball joint now. Well guys, I guess that was a little bit of a fail. Now I gotta make sure my brake line didn't rip. I mean, it seems to be fine, but we'll check it here in a little bit. Last thing we want is bad brakes. I guess I don't even really need a wire. This bucket should do the job pretty good. So now I'm gonna remove this bracket down here. Alright, so now a little bit more fun. I gotta press these out, and since this is so short, I'm gonna clamp these vice grips to it. That way I can hold it from farther and I can beat on it pretty good. Don't forget the penetrator guys, because these things are stuck in here. There goes the first one, and there's the second one. Like I said, penetrating oil definitely helps. So there's that piece. That's where your bottom lower control arm sits. So now we can set this aside because this one doesn't need any drilling. The screws that come with the kit go into this one perfectly. So now I gotta remove the upper control arm. If you guys can see, I gotta remove these two screws. So there's one back here and then the other one back here. And then this should bring out the whole arm. And then you gotta be careful with these shims, because if you guys can see here, there's some shims here. you'll see them when I take this apart, and you want to remember which one is front and which one is back. So make sure you get a hold of all these, that way you know you don't mess with the camber. So this side was kind of a pain in the ass, because if you can see all these hoses here in the way, and it's pretty tight. And then I think you got one of the engine mounts pretty close over there. But all in all, it's just, you know, basically sticking your fingers in there and trying to take those bolts out. So now let me get in here and take these two out, and we'll move forward. All right guys, so like I was saying, here are your shims. Let's see if I can grab them all. So these are your shims. These are actually all stuck together because all the dirt. So you want to make sure you know which ones is which. So I'm gonna put the back one there, and then I still haven't removed the other one, and then I'll just put the other one here just to make sure I know which side is which. All right, so now that I removed the two bolts, as you guys can see, they're gone. And I got the two shims, so that's my rear and that's my front one. And then I got my two bolts here. So this thing's ready to come out. If we come over here, I probably could have made this a lot easier by removing that little flap, this thing. But I didn't want to, you know, mess these clips up and have to get new ones, so I figured I'd just do it like this. I mean, it's really not in the way. All you gotta do is move that flap forward to slide the upper control arm. And just like that, you got your upper control arm out. So another issue I ran in with this upper control arm is this piece, this shaft piece. And I went to AutoZone to try to get a new one, but I guess they sell you the whole upper control arm. And then I got on the DJM website to see if it was included, and sure enough, their website says Climax upper control arm with factory mounting shaft. So I don't know if they didn't send it to me or what. I actually didn't even order it directly from their website. I actually ordered from a second party, but it's already here and I'm already taking it apart, so I didn't bother to even message them because I made the other one work. The only downside to that was that I had to cut it apart, basically cut it into pieces, because there's no way I was going to get those bushings out. So in a perfect world, those bushings should have been perfect and slide right out so I could save the shaft. But like I said before, 24 years later, I doubt these things are going to come out. So I'm gonna try it out just in case. Maybe this side's the lucky side. So I'm gonna remove these bolts and see if that does it. If not, then like I said, I'm gonna cut these in half and take it apart and do that. So let's see what happens with this. I don't know if you guys can see this, but it's nice and rusted in there, so there's no way I'm gonna be able to pull this out. So I'm just gonna cut it on each side and take it apart. Well guys, there it is. Came apart. Like I said, unfortunately I had to slice into here so you guys can see that slit, but I don't think it's gonna affect anything. I'm just gonna grease it up real good and it should be good. So now I gotta do the other side. Now I'm gonna sand these down, clean them up a little bit, and it should be ready to install. Alright, so here's the fun part. So we gotta install these. It comes with these fittings that go in between these bushings, and this is where the shaft goes in. So what we've got to do is put these together, drive them in here, and then right here where we got the little grease fitting hole, we want to get a drill bit and drill through these two at the same time on each side. That way we could get the grease gun and grease them up. So I learned, you know, putting a little bit of grease already definitely gonna help, because we're gonna have to remove one of these to put that shaft in. So for sure, let's put these in with a little bit of grease on them already. I don't think it needs to be a lot, just make sure it's nice and lubricated, that way it goes in here freely, just like that, nice and easy. Try not to beat on this little metal piece too much, that way your shaft doesn't have trouble going in there. Alright, so I got a 5/32 drill bit, so it's pretty small. It's actually smaller than the little hole for the grease fitting. So now I'm going to drill the hole through the bushing and the sleeve all the way through, that way when we squeeze grease it goes through all the way. Make sure to clean it real good because we don't want to leave none of those pieces of metal in here. So they say to mark it exactly where you drilled it, because like I said, we're going to pull one out, that way we can put the shaft through. So I'm going to pull this one out, so I'm going to mark it right here. So I'm going to mark it right here just to let me know that this is where the little hole is. And after I pull this out and put it back in, I know where to align it. So you see, this is where the grease plays a good role, because even though I greased it, it's still pretty tight and I can't get it out. I'm using this socket to try to push it out. And then it doesn't help that the top of the arm is here. So it's kind of a weird angle to press on it. So this is the control shaft. And I'm gonna grease the two sides. Now I'm gonna slide it through. Now we're gonna line the hole with the little valve hole. And now this is where these big washers come in play. So you got one for each side. And the screw back on. Now I'm gonna put the little grease fittings on. That way we could grease this thing up. Gotta be careful with these things because you can easily strip them. Grease it up. I think honestly this is poor design, but I guess a little bit of grease going through them is better than nothing. What I'm gonna do right now, after I get done with this, when I tighten the screws, I'm gonna rotate the whole shaft a few times. That way it kind of moves the grease around and hopefully helps lubricate it a little bit. Alright guys, as you guys can see, ball joints installed on the top part. Now it's time to mount it back onto the truck. Alright, so there it is. Got the two bolts on there with the shims. And there it is. Now it's time to put the bottom part together. So this is kind of where I saw on forums that people were kind of confused of how the washers went. But it's nothing too crazy. The pictures, if you get on the website, the pictures are a lot more clear than on the instructions they send. So I got online, I saw exactly how it was set up. So it's nothing too crazy. And we already drilled that traction bar, so we should be pretty much ready to go. So what I'm gonna do here is start putting this thing together. Okay, so this is where you're gonna use these 4 bolts with the lock nuts. And then these 4 washers, the flat washers they call. So we're gonna start by installing this traction bar up here, and that's where your 2 washers go on top of this. And then on top of that, it's gonna be your bracket. And then on top of all this goes your sway bar bracket. So now you want to put these screws through, all the way through, each side. Another one. same for this side. Make sure that washer doesn't fall out. And just like that, that's pretty much it. And then the other set, what you want to do is push it from underneath up, and then you'll put another flat washer there. And then we'll do lock nut. And then repeat the same process on the other side. Push it through, put a flat washer, and then there's your nut. So now we could kind of start tightening this up. I'm gonna see if I can put this big bolt on the end of the traction bar. Alright, so I got that in, so now I could start tightening these up. So just like that, it's already nice and tight. Now I'm going to get my brand new ball joint and mount it onto my hub assembly, and I can start throwing it back onto this. Well guys, there it is. Got everything plugged in. Everything's good to go. All I gotta do now is remove that strut and put that new one in. So I didn't remove that strut since the beginning because I kind of wanted it in there just in case that spring shot out, you know, it would catch it, that way it won't hit you. If it does spring out, I doubt it will, but just in case, you know. And so like I said, I'm just gonna cut that nut and install the new strut in there. Alright, so now I got the traction bar back on. Nice and yellow. So everything's ready to go. All I'm gonna do now is mount the wheels. Like I said, I'm gonna mount them on and we're gonna lower the front end and start tackling the back. Let's see how that goes. Well guys, I don't know if you guys can tell, but it already looks like a lowrider. That front did drop significantly. Now it's time to give that 4-inch drop in the back, even this thing out. Man, it's looking real good already. I'm excited. Well guys, if you guys can see, I already put that block in there. So this side was super easy. I think it took me like 15 minutes to get this done. So I still got to do the other side, so I'm gonna walk you guys through this. I mean, if only the front was this easy, I would have been done days ago, weeks ago. Because man, this was a relief because this side is super easy. So basically all I gotta do is remove those U-bolts and the strut, jack the rear differential just so I could get that space for the 4-inch block, and then bolt it all down and it'll be looking like this. So let's get this going. Alright, if you guys can see, this block is tapered a little bit, so it's a little bit higher here, so you want this high sight towards the back. So the little top hole is not wanting to line up here. So what I'm gonna do is just leave it there for now and put the U-bolt on and then see if that pushes it into place, because it's just being held by a little hair. So let's see what happens. So that's pretty much it. All I gotta do is change my strut and we'll be ready to go. Ready to put it on the ground. Well guys, there she is. Basically all you need to do is install 2 U-bolts, your block. If you've got your struts, change your strut and you're ready to lower this thing. Alright guys, moment of truth. We're gonna lower this thing. Hope you guys are ready as I am. Hope you guys are ready as I am. Oh yes, this thing's looking good. Check it out guys, nice and leveled. This thing looks real good. Oh yes, so beautiful. It sucks there's so much clutter in here, so unfortunately it's already nighttime, so I'm gonna wait for the daytime to show it off. I guess for now we can measure the difference. So let's just open up this chart and see what the measurements were before this. Okay, so before the lowering kit, everything was sitting at 28. Both front sides were sitting at 28 inches and both back sides were sitting on 30 inches. So I'm gonna go around and measure them now and see how much we drop. Alright guys, so after going around and measuring everything up again, I'm sitting in 25.5 on both sides on the front and then 26.5 on both sides in the back. So I'm missing half an inch, but I think right now it's just because the brake's on and we haven't moved it, and I think everything should just settle down, and I think we should have those 3 and 4 inches off. But man, it looks good. I'm excited. I'm excited to take it down the road and see how it rides. Well guys, here we have it. This thing's looking real good. Nice and leveled. Truck looks amazing. So I don't think I mentioned it, but I actually got these wheels on a good deal. They're actually the Works VS XX, and these are the 17-inch wheels. So basically, I think these are discontinued, honestly. So they're basically gonna be rare wheels pretty soon. So the previous owner painted them white. And then what's cool about these is that they're actually staggered. So the front is 8 inches and the back is 9 inches. So it's a real good setup. It really makes the truck look real good. So I'm gonna take this for a little cruise, go on some curvy roads and test out this brand new lowering kit and see how it handles. So I actually already got back from getting this thing aligned. So I got it all aligned. So it should be ready to go. So now I'm just gonna go and take a cruise on some curvy roads and see how it handles. Well guys, here we are cruising on the little Tacoma, and this thing rides smooth, nice and straight. So I had been riding on the old suspension for about a year now, and then this thing rides so good. I'm guessing since I got the new struts and everything, it just leveled everything out. I mean, this thing handles real good. I mean, I am a little bit of a believer of the OEM wheels, that they'll help you, because they kind of, you know, it almost feels like they absorb some of the, you know, they absorb some of the bumps on the road and everything, so it's a little bit more forgiving. Right now with these wheels, since it's more of a low pro tire, you hit a bump and you still feel it. I mean, I'm pretty sure everybody with aftermarket wheels kind of has the same feel. But all in all, this thing rides real good. I mean, these turns with these views, it's awesome. Well guys, like I was saying, this thing rides so good, and man, it looks good. Thing's a dream. I'm out here at the Beaver Dam. You guys can see the dam out there. Nothing like nice scenery. Well guys, I'm gonna close the video here. I appreciate everybody watching, and I hope this video was informative and it helped somebody out there. You know, stay tuned for more, because I definitely got more plans for this. Right now I got a new color, so I'm gonna wrap this truck. So I got a new color on its way, so it should be here in the next few days. And you know, maybe down the road, maybe we end up 2JCing this truck. You never know. Like I said guys, I appreciate everybody watching. Consider subscribing. Don't forget to like, share, and until next time, peace.